There is no matter as such. All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force which brings the particle of an atom to vibration and holds this most minute solar system of the atom together. We must assume behind this force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. This mind is the matrix of all
conscious
matter.
beings can be observers, then we're intimately hooked into the very existence of reality. Without us, there would just be this expanding superposition of possibilities with nothing definite ever actually happening.
Out of millions and millions of blobs of energy and light, photons and electrons, they make up this imaginary three-dimensional solid world, which doesn't exist at all according to relativity or quantum mechanics.
Anytime we attempt to look at particles beyond a certain level, the very act of observation changes things.
And in addition, the more you look at individual particles, the more you realize that there is no such thing as one electron. An electron, or any elementary particle, exists only in relationship to other things, like other particles or the universe at large. This means that deeply enough, when you dive down into the nature of matter, everything we know about the everyday world dissolves. There are no objects anymore. There are only relationships. There's no locality anymore. There's no time anymore. The more you look at something in detail, in what we think of as solid matter, the less and less solid it begins to look.
The only realities we know are the ones our brain manufactures. Our brain receives millions of signals every minute, and we organize them into holograms which we project outside ourselves and call reality.
All the information that we have about the external world is conveyed to us by our five senses. The world we know of consists of what our eyes see, our ears hear, our noses smell, our tongues taste, and our hands feel. Man is dependent on only those five senses since birth. That is why he knows the external world only the way it is presented by these senses, the beginning of his life, that the world he lives in has an absolute material reality. So he grows up under the effect of this conditioning and builds his entire life on this viewpoint. The findings of modern science, however, have revealed a completely different and significant reality than what is presumed. Reminded of our information about our sense of sight, which provides us with the most extensive information about the external world. The act of seeing is realized progressively. At the instance of seeing, light clusters called photons travel from the object to the eye and pass through the eye lens, where they are refracted and focus on the retina at the back of the eye. Here, rays are turned into electrical signals and then transmitted by neurons to the center of vision at the back of the brain. The act of seeing actually takes place in this center in the brain. All the images we view in our lives and all the events we experience are actually experienced in this tiny and dark place. Both the film you are now watching and the boundless landscape you see when you gaze at the horizon actually fit into this place of a few cubic centimeters.
rabbit hole and how deep and how far we want to go is really how much do you want to discover about your true nature?
We have to go beyond our senses to create a new paradigm.
It may very well be that what's going on inside of you, in your brain, in your nervous system, in your nature of observation, how memory works, how mind works, it may very well be that what is happening there is some kind of observer-matter interrelationship which is indeed making things real for you, affecting how you perceive reality. It's not changing the reality out there. It's, you know, you're not changing big chairs and big trucks and bulldozers and rockets taking off. You're not changing those, no. But you're changing how you perceive things and maybe how you think about the things, how you feel about things, how you sense the world.
We were all taught in school that the world is made of stuff, of matter, of mass, of atoms. Atoms make up molecules, molecules make up materials, and everything is made of that. But atoms actually are mostly empty. For example, if this ball were the nucleus of an atom, a proton in a hydrogen atom, for example, then the electron circling this, which would describe the outer limits of that atom, would be out by that mountain over there, roughly 20 miles away. And everything in between is empty. In fact, the universe is mostly empty. However, when we go down in scale, in the emptiness, we eventually come to a level, the fundamental level of space-time geometry, the fine basement level of the universe, where there's information, there's a pattern. It's called the Planck scale, and it's the fabric of the universe.
We are running the holodeck. We are collectively, it's there, it has such flexibility that anything you can imagine it will create. And you learn, I mean, your intention causes this thing to materialize once you're conscious enough. Most people don't affect reality in a consistent, substantial way because they don't believe they can.
These physical facts make us come to an indisputable conclusion. Everything we see, touch, hear, and perceive is matter. The world, or the universe, is only electrical signals in our brain.
Tighter physics have tried to grasp onto physical reality, to understand what it's really made of, what are the core building blocks of life, at the basis of it all. Life, the universe, slips through your fingers. And you come up with something that's increasingly abstract to come to the realm of pure abstraction. And that's what the unified field is. It's pure abstract potential, pure abstract being, pure abstract self-aware consciousness, which rises in waves of vibration to give rise to the particles, the people, everything we see in the vast universe.
There are even experiments now that you are seeing light flashes and your brain potential picks up the signature of those light flashes, what is called evoked potential, that can be measured in an EEG machine connected to your brain. And I am sitting over there, no light flashes, I cannot see you, and still my brain potentials, because I am correlated with you in terms of intention, I intend to be directly communicative with your experiences. That intention produces me, gives me the capability of simultaneously having the similar brain potential in my brain. It was first done by Jacobo Greenberg at the University of Mexico, and now repeated by Peter Fenwick in London.
The mind is structured in layers, just like the universe is structured in layers, from superficial to profound. And if we use the mind at a very superficial level of ordinary thought, we have very limited power. We can barely move a speck of dust across a tabletop without using our hands. So weak can consciousness be. But at the deepest level of consciousness, consciousness creates universes. There literally are different worlds in which we live. There's the macroscopic world that we see. There's the world of our cells. There's the world of our atoms. There's the world of our nuclei. These are each totally different worlds. They have their own language. They have their own mathematics. They're not just small. Each is totally different. But they're complementary. Because I am my atoms, but I am also my cells. I'm also my macroscopic physiology. It's all true. They're just different levels of truth. The deepest level of truth uncovered by science and by philosophy is the fundamental truth of unity. At that deepest subnuclear level of our reality, you and I are literally one.
In the same way, a golf ball teed off toward the green isn't moving. It too is only winking in and out of existence at an incredibly fast speed at different locations. Particle A goes into the void, and when it returns, particle B, a new creation, is a minuscule fraction closer to the target. But here the mystery deepens. When the ball disappears for a nanosecond, only to reappear just the tiniest bit to the left or right, why didn't it just disintegrate instead? After all, it was completely absent for a while, and there is no reason why its old shape and size and color shouldn't simply dissolve. Quantum physics can even calculate the odds that the whole will not receive the ball. Who is capable of taking the universe away and putting it back again in a fraction of a second? Everything that we experience as material reality is born in an invisible realm beyond space and time. It is very hard to realize that our origin, our source, is not of this world. Here I am with all my qualities. People see me, hear me, they believe in my existence. Yet my reality is paper thin. Quantum level, there is no sound, sight, texture, color, or anything else recognizable. The soul is the junction point between my virtual self and my physical self. It is the organizing intelligence that keeps me intact. This is an exceptional feat, given that every atom of my body is pure empty space with flashes of energy passing through it for no more than a few millionths of a second. This is the power of creation, a force that plays with our existence in the blink of an eye, where dust creates stars, stars become worlds, and worlds spawn the organic matter of DNA. DNA is composed of simple sugars and bits of protein. What caused these molecules to join together, arrange themselves in a pattern, and learn to divide? One answer is that an invisible organizing power is constantly at work. The same way that gravity is constantly at work, only smarter. The need for life to unendingly reproduce itself is fundamental. Yet, the need for simple chemicals to reproduce themselves is nil. So even at this most basic level, we see certain qualities of awareness, recognition, memory, self-preservation, and identity coming into play. Now, add the element of time. To form a baby, a single fertilized cell must be a master of timing. Every organ of the body exists in seed form within a single strand of DNA. Yet to emerge correctly, they must take their turn. A stem cell that's destined to become a brain cell somehow knows who it is going to be in advance. It wakes up to itself, not on the chemical level, but on the level of awareness. DNA is matter. For a child to lose his baby teeth and replace them with adult ones, DNA has to know a great deal about the passage of time. It knew what would happen to you while you were still in your mother's womb.
Every culture on the planet Earth is always changing.
Death itself may be coded into embryonic cells. A tribe of mostly young, childbearing members would be able to fight and gather food better than one burdened by older people.
My stars, what are our young people coming to these days?
Did DNA settle on 70 years as a reasonable way to keep the human race viable? When DNA took the immense step of learning to reproduce itself, a mastery of time came along, woven into the texture of life itself. Its journey began in the stars, so DNA may be waiting to tell us about our place in eternity too. We all flow with the river of time and simultaneously sit on its banks observing it. Time is just a cosmic convenience that keeps everything from happening all at once. In other words, at this second in time, as you're observing me and I'm aware of you, the whole universe is coming to a point, like a huge lens focusing the sun's energy in a point. It took all of creation to make this moment, and every moment. Time captures our attention and pulls us into its web. But when we consider we might also be weavers of the web, the possibility opens up that God is weaving along with us. The timing of DNA is one of the secrets to the evolution of the human mind. The mind interprets the world and gives it meaning. If I have a mental image of a sunset, has my brain given it to me? At the quantum level, the brain, a dark semi-fluid mass of water and proteins, shapes virtual photons into patterns. There is no image of a sunset in that darkness. It takes the mind to decode chemical and electrical patterns into reality. Our search for God is a mental exercise. Inside the brain, electrical impulses surge everywhere, shifting as we think new thoughts. Our brains are like a telephone system with 1,000 calls taking place every second. Having a single thought is more complex than sorting out one message from all the telephone calls in the world. Amid these chaotic swirls of chemicals and electrons, where is the mind? Neurology hasn't found it, not even so common a thing as a memory. We know that our brains have something to do with our memories, but where are those memories before we experience them in our consciousness? Are they stored in the brain? We assume they are, but no one knows how. No one doubts that the brain uses energy, but as atoms of food are mined for their energy, and this gets converted into thought, none of it is channeled into memory. It doesn't take food to store the image of where you were 10 years ago on your birthday. Nor does it seem to take energy to activate a memory. Whenever you remember a birthday party, you move from the present to images of the past simply by the power of intention. It's teleportation at the mental level. In my mind's eye, I see a scene from my childhood. I can get absorbed in it. The sounds, sights, and smells. Yet to the mind, there is no essential difference between experiencing a memory and actually being there at the event. Where in the brain can you find creativity, knowing, decision-making, inspiration, intuition, insight, imagination, or spirit? The brain cannot create the qualities that make us most human. Remember, a neuron is composed of molecules that are not solid. They are patterns of invisible energy grouped into the appearance of particles. Go deeper still, and the patterns dissolve. The energy vanishes into ghostly vibrations and then into nothing. Can memory be stored in nothing? The answer is yes. And nothing, the void between matter is the best place for it, since that same void creates all patterns and orderliness in the cosmos. Fortunately for our brains, they are incredibly sensitive receivers of information from the quantum void. So the brain provides more than sanity and meaning. It provides a whole world. Presiding over this self-created world is a God who embraces everything. The mind is not confined by time and space. Every speck of the void contains the whole. The tiniest gap between two nerve endings in the brain contains the potential for all experience.
The world is like a ride at an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. And the ride goes up and down and round and round. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Some people have been on the ride for a long time, and they begin to question, is this real, or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us, and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut him up. We have a lot invested in this ride. Shut him up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill those good guys who try and tell us that. You ever notice that? And let the demons run amok? But it doesn't matter because it's just a ride.